Cochise County, Arizona could set a new standard for election transparency in the digital age. Chapter 16, Seeing is Believing. This ebook will be published by chapter before it is assembled into a full volume. It features both video and audio content. Monday, January 5, 2026. By Ken Bennett and John Brakey. A statement of democratic principles. We do not believe democratic societies are defined by perfection, moral purity, or the absence of abuse. We believe they are defined by their capacity to detect error, correct abuse, and restore trust through evidence. History shows that when power, whether governmental, institutional, or private, operates without transparency and independent verification, abuse becomes not only possible but predictable. This is not a claim about motives or ideology. It is a structural reality observed across time and systems. Our work is grounded in three principles. Skepticism is not cynicism. Asking for evidence is not an accusation. It is a democratic responsibility. Transparency is not exposure. Protecting privacy and civil rights is compatible with public verification of outcomes. Trust must be earned through systems, not personalities. Good people operating inside opaque systems are still constrained by what the public can verify. We do not seek to persuade people to believe us. We seek to help build systems that allow citizens to verify for themselves. That is the difference between authority and legitimacy. And it is the foundation of a durable democratic republic. What is ABE? Auditable Ballot Examination, ABE, is a nonpartisan, county-based election transparency method that allows both election officials and the public to independently verify election results without compromising ballot secrecy or voter privacy. Using records that modern voting systems already generate, ballot images, cast vote records, CVRs, and precinct-level reports, ABE reconstructs election results at the precinct level. This makes it possible for citizens, journalists, candidates, and election officials to confirm that reported outcomes accurately reflect the ballots actually cast. In essence, ABE brings elections back to a 1912-style precinct-level verification model, updated for the digital age. See video part of Kent Bennett's presentation at 14 minutes. Instead of relying solely on centralized tabulation and post-election assurances, ABE enables distributed verification using transparent, observable evidence. ABE does not centralize voter data and does not expose voter identities. Authority remains at the county and state level, while public trust is restored through transparency rather than blind trust in closed systems. In short, voting remains secret, counting becomes publicly verifiable, and confidence is earned through observable evidence, not blind trust in a closed process. We anticipate a future in which every precinct committee member and candidate in the county will receive a CVR spreadsheet via email, complete with hyperlinked ballot images accessible for download from the cloud as needed to conduct a risk-limiting audit of their precinct. Ken Bennett. A remarkable meeting. On Thursday, December 4, 2025, at 10 a.m., something rare happened in American politics. In a public hearing room on Melody Lane in Bisbee, Arizona, all key decision-makers were present. Members of the Cochise County Board of Supervisors sat alongside the county manager, the county recorder, the elections director, and senior county staff. No yelling. No conspiracy circus. No cable news theater. Instead, leaders of a rural border county, the fifth largest county in Arizona with just over 82,000 registered voters, sat down at a specially called public meeting with two invited guests. Ken Bennett, former Arizona Secretary of State, and John Brakey, co-founder and executive director of Audit Elections USA. They talked calmly, seriously, and publicly about how to let the people verify elections for themselves. Somebody's got to be first. Why not you? Ken Bennett, former Arizona Secretary of State. Video of study session. That challenge framed the entire discussion. Cochise County may now be positioned to become a first mover for a new standard in American elections, radical transparency paired with public verification, using a hybrid system called Auditable Ballot Examination, ABE. Apostles for Radical Transparency. Before coming to Cochise County, Bennett picked up the phone and called Arizona's Secretary of State to explain what would be presented. There was no attempt to shut the discussion down. The state official didn't say back off. He didn't say this will cause trouble. Bennett relayed the response he received. You can tell them that you and I, Ken and Adrian, are both apostles for radical transparency. That line landed in the room like a stake in the ground and was well received with smiles. This is not a left versus right project. This is not a "who really won 2020" project. This is a much more basic and overdue question. Can we verify elections together as adults, using evidence that already exists? The man who lost sleep over 0.001%. Ken Bennett is not just another talking head. He is a native Arizonan, a former city council member, former president of the Arizona State Senate, and former Arizona Secretary of State from 2009 to 2015. Today, he serves as chairman of Audit Elections USA and remains one of the most credible voices in the country on how to fix the election trust crisis without burning the house down. He opened the Cochise meeting with a story that still gives him chills. In 2010, as Secretary of State, Bennett had to oversee the first statewide recount in Arizona history. About 2 million ballots had been cast. A statewide proposition was losing by just 126 votes. Under Arizona law at the time, any margin under 200 votes triggered an automatic recount. Ken Bennett is an accounting major, and as he lay down to sleep that night, he did some quick math in his head. If a recount of 2 million ballots were 99% accurate, the margin of error could be 20,000 votes. 99.9% accurate, it could still be 2,000 votes. 99.99% accurate, it would mean 200 votes, enough to change the outcome. Knowing this, Bennett did not sleep well that night. After recounting ballots from all 15 Arizona counties, the final result changed by 42 votes. The proposition still lost, now by 168 instead of 126. More than 1,600 precincts were reviewed statewide. 99.5% of precincts showed no change at all. One precinct in Maricopa County accounted for 30 of the 42 vote shift due to a double counting error when ballots briefly fell behind a tabulator and were run twice. By accounting for that one mistake, the entire rest of the state only changed by 12 votes out of 2 million. The lesson Bennett brought to Cochise was simple and profound: little things matter, especially in very close elections. In small counties, little things are big things. And right now, we are living in a world of close elections. The trust crisis no one can ignore. In recent polling, nearly 4 in 10 Democrats, and more than 7 in 10 Republicans say they do not trust the result of at least one of the last 2 presidential elections. That is not a fringe problem. That is a regime confidence problem in a nation that calls itself a democratic republic. We've all heard the lines. My vote doesn't matter. It's a rigged game. If voting really made a difference, they wouldn't let us do it. Both sides are corrupt. When that attitude settles in, democracy doesn't just feel shaky, it becomes unstable. At Audit USA, we operate from a simple principle that guided the entire Cochise meeting: voting must be secret. Counting must be public. Trust comes from verification, not faith. Ken brought up a quote attributed to St. Augustine. The truth is like a lion. You don't have to defend it. You just let it loose and it will defend itself. How elections used to be transparent and how ABE revives that tradition. One of the most memorable moments of the Cochise meeting came when Bennett took everyone back to 1912, the year Arizona became a state. In those early elections, ballots were read aloud in each precinct. Totals were written on tally sheets in front of observers. Each ballot was punched with a hole and slid onto a string. That string of ballots served as the original public chain of custody. Any citizen, Democrat, Republican, Independent, or unaffiliated, could verify that the tally sheet matched the ballots themselves. Bennett told the room, "Let me show you how elections were conducted in Arizona in 1912. It was not nostalgia. It was a lesson." That same spirit is what animates auditable ballot examination, ABE. ABE is the modern successor to the 1912 system. Instead of paper and string, we now have digital ballot images, cast vote records, CVRs, Excel-based precinct-level audit tools. The principle is unchanged: transparency the public can see. We even named the program ABE as a nod to Abraham Lincoln, a leader who believed deeply in the people's ability to govern themselves when given the truth. When one side sees elections as fair and the other sees them as rigged, we're no longer sharing a democracy, we're fighting over a broken scoreboard. That's why tools like ABE exist, to rebuild trust through public verification and transparency. Former Arizona Secretary of State Ken Bennett, 5 Steps to Achieving Verified and Trusted Elections, video. From 1912 string ballots to a digital hybrid 2026 canvas system, simple, fast, precise, and provides election directors with speed and accuracy. The core challenge facing election administrators today is that ballots are no longer stored or reported by precinct in a way the public can easily examine. As Arizona shifted to vote centers and widespread vote by mail, precincts became virtual. Ballots now arrive in mixed batches, thousands at a time, from every corner of a county. This creates a major obstacle for meaningful audits. Reassembling a single precinct's ballots within short legal timelines has become nearly impossible. In 1912, Arizona candidates had 20 days after certification to gather evidence and challenge an election. Today, the time to challenge an election was reduced from 20 days to just 5 days. Yet you cannot challenge what you cannot see. To inspect original ballots in Arizona, a court order is required, and judges must first seek convincing evidence, creating a legal catch-22. The election document most susceptible to harmful or accidental changes is the cast vote record, CVR, essentially a large spreadsheet that records how each anonymous ballot was tabulated. Early ballot processing begins up to 14 days before Election Day. The first 1 or 2 days of tabulated ballots, often 20,000 or more, function like a statistically powerful early poll. For documented historical context, see Bill Reisner's statement of facts in the 2006 Pima County RTA case. This potential for errors in the CVR is one of the primary reasons ABE was created. What ABE actually does, in plain English. Modern voting systems already create 2 powerful datasets: ballot images, digital images of every ballot scan, cast vote records, CVRs, spreadsheets listing how each anonymous ballot was recorded. ABE simply does 3 things. Links each ballot image to its corresponding CVR row. Organizes the data by precinct using Excel macros. Allows humans to verify that the ballot image matches the CVR. At a verification station, one person reads the ballot image, one person reads the CVR row. Machines do the heavy lifting. People deliver the truth with facts. ABE doesn't replace technology. It proves what the technology did. Why counties like Cochise can use ABE right now. Cochise County does not need to replace its tabulators or switch vendors. To use ABE, a county needs a standalone Windows computer, offline from the EMS, Microsoft Excel ballot images, the CVR database. That's it. Yet despite this readiness, counties face a barrier that has nothing to do with technology and everything to do with how transparency laws are being interpreted and abused. The legal obstacle to transparency and why it's being misused. One of the central challenges facing election transparency in Arizona is resistance to releasing ballot images even though they are public records under state law once voter identity has been separated. That resistance is most often justified by invoking ARS Section 16-625. To understand why this statute is now being misused, the history matters. ARS Section 16-625 did not emerge from a neutral study process, bipartisan reform effort, or a demonstrated privacy failure. It was enacted as a striker bill during active litigation in which citizens were seeking access to ballot images in Pima County. While the case was still before the court, county leadership advanced legislation that changed the rules midstream. A striker bill is a legislative tactic in Arizona where the original text of a bill is completely removed and replaced with new language, sometimes on an entirely different subject, while keeping the same bill number. In other words, instead of allowing a judge to rule on whether ballot images were public records, as decades of public records law would suggest, the legislature was asked to intervene on behalf of Pima County administrators Chuck Huckleberry, who was actively resisting transparency. In fact, the election director Brad Nelson worked directly under Huckleberry. Note, Chuck Huckleberry served as the Pima County Administrator from 1993 until his resignation in 2022. He began his career with Pima County in 1974 as a field engineer and advanced through various positions. In 1993, he was appointed as county administrator, a role he held for nearly 30 years. Question: why transparency? For documented historical context and proof, see Bill Reisner's statement of facts in the 2006 Pima County RTA case. That sequence matters. Striker bills are not inherently illegal, but they are often used when speed and insulation from public scrutiny are the goal. In this case, the effect was immediate. Election officials gained a statutory talking point to deny access to records that had previously been treated as public. The justification offered was ballot anonymity. But anonymity was never shown to be at risk at scale. No evidence was presented that releasing ballot images without voter identifying information had exposed voters or compromised elections anywhere in Arizona. Instead, the statute created a chilling effect. Counties now routinely cite Section 16-625 as a blanket prohibition, even though its language does not explicitly bar the controlled release of ballot images for public verification. This pattern, using privacy rhetoric to block transparency, is not unique to Arizona. But it is particularly consequential here, because Arizona already produces some of the most detailed election data in the country. Cochise County's December 4 study session demonstrated that transparency and privacy are not opposing values. When managed correctly, they reinforce one another. Arizona case study: why the hand count audit under ARS Section 16-602 is now insufficient. Arizona's hand count audit statute, ARS Section 16-602, no longer functions as a meaningful audit in modern digital elections, not because of misconduct, but because of how ballots are selected and which contests are excluded. Under current practice, counties typically begin selecting audit batches 10 to 14 days before Election Day, while early ballots are still being processed. These selections are described as random, but in reality the batches are identified and logged by the tabulation system in advance, even if human observers do not view their contents. Once those batches are per-tagged, meaningful randomness is lost. From that point forward, the system itself knows which batches are designated for audit and which will never be examined. Any targeted error or manipulation, if it were to occur, would simply avoid those pre-selected batches. The audit then reviews only what the system already protected. On Election Day, voting center ballots in Maricopa are tabulated separately. These ballots, approximately 7.5% of total votes, are genuinely unpredictably and therefore the least attractive target for manipulation. Ironically, this is the only part of the process where randomness protects the audit. The greater vulnerability lies elsewhere. The Cast Vote Record (CVR) database, where results are compiled after ballot images are generated. Without public access to ballot images, there is no independent way to verify that CVRs were not altered after tabulation. The Cast Vote Record (CVR), where results are compiled after ballot images are generated and interpreted. Without public access to ballot images or the original ballots, there is no independent way to verify that CVRs were not subject to error or altered during or after tabulation. Why the August 2020 Maricopa primary hand count wasn't an audit. I witnessed the audit firsthand as a Libertarian Party observer. The Democratic Party later claimed I participated in selecting the 25 boxes out of 50. Yes, I was there and I was not happy. There is also another serious, long-standing flaw in Arizona election audits. There are no audits whatsoever for county races, county referenda, and county bond issues. They are excluded entirely under Arizona Statute Section 16-602. For comparison, here is what we counted in 2008. 2008 audit, 17,075 ballots, with a smaller population. 2020 audit, 8,114 ballots, with far more voters. The required sample size collapsed because the law was written for precinct-based elections, not countywide vote centers. Precinct polling has been replaced by vote centers, and vote centers now account for only 7.5% of ballots cast in Maricopa County on Election Day. That exclusion was not accidental. Former legislator Ted Downing explained that he and Senator Karen Johnson drafted the initial audit bill in 2006. At the time, election officials from Pima and Maricopa counties, specifically Pima's Brad Nelson and Maricopa's Karen Osborne, cautioned that including county contests would result in the bill's failure. To overcome this obstacle, the sponsors decided to exclude county races, ensuring the bill's passage. This compromise was enacted into law, yet it excluded the contests most susceptible to insider manipulation, which were then exploited by the growth lobby. As a result, federal races are audited. Statewide races are audited. County races are not audited at all. Handcount audits under ARS Section 16-602 now provide the appearance of oversight without the capacity to detect problems. Real verification requires ballot images, CVRs, and precinct-level reconstruction, the foundation of auditable ballot examination, ABE. Play button video. Former Representative Ted Downing explains how and why county races were excluded from Arizona's audit law. Why ABE matters. The beauty of ABE is not that we expect it to find problems, it's that it can reveal the absence of tabulation problems. Arizona's counting systems are extremely accurate, and ABE simply confirms that accuracy, while discovering occasionally misread overvotes or undervotes. ABE increases confidence for candidates, the Board of Supervisors, and voters alike. In a polarized nation, we need a mechanism to verify the accuracy inside the black box. ABE provides transparency, reduces opportunities for insider manipulation, and deters misconduct before it starts. If Pinal County had used an approach like this, the 2022 meltdown would never have become a statewide crisis. Using a hybrid digital precinct-based verification is what makes elections both transparent and resilient, especially when done by precinct. ABE provides what most election departments lack: speed and accuracy at the same time. As Ken Bennett often says, precincts are the building blocks of the canvas. When counts are off, as in Pinal County, where 500-plus ballots were misplaced, ABE tells you exactly where the discrepancy occurred. Bulletproof privacy explanation for officials. Arizona's ballot privacy is stronger than critics assume. The Maricopa County study by Dr. Shiro Koriwaki, Science Advances, 2025, demonstrates that Arizona elections already provide exceptionally strong ballot privacy under current county reporting practices. Based on that study, we're talking about a problem that is estimated to be about 170 ballots out of every 100,000 issued. Also, the system that you have has the ability to identify the voters that have a unique ballot style. For Cochise County, that works out to about 130 ballots. You can find out by running ABE on previous elections by loading the CVR as a spreadsheet. Then use the pivot tables to find ballot styles. 99.95% of voter choices can be publicly revealed. Even if all CVRs were released, 99.83% of voters remain fully anonymous. The remaining 0.17% of theoretical privacy risk comes from a few very small ballot categories that occur in extremely low numbers within precincts. Thin ballot styles, unique, customized ballots issued to one or two voters in a precinct. Thin federal-only ballots, rare ballots that stand out. Provisional ballots, small counts, often flagged distinctly. The good news, all three issues can be fully mitigated through straightforward administrative steps, especially in counties with ballot-on-demand capability. Thin ballot styles: issue a standard precinct ballot plus a one-contest supplemental ballot when needed. Federal-only ballots: duplicate voter-marked choices onto a standard unvoted, leaving unused contests blank. Provisional ballots: mix accepted provisionals into the regular precinct batch before imaging or tabulation. These steps preserve the original ballot as legal evidence, require no statutory changes, protect voter privacy, and increase anonymity while expanding transparency. How ABE supports these protections. ABE immediately identifies thin categories by precinct. When such a ballot appears, staff can duplicate the voter-marked portion onto a standard precinct ballot, omitting unique contests. When the unique contest must be preserved, produce a one-contest supplemental ballot. This preserves anonymity while maintaining the evidentiary integrity of the original ballot, the gold standard for public verification. How the hybrid system empowers citizens. ABE is not designed solely for professionals or insiders. It is designed so that ordinary citizens can participate meaningfully in election verification. Under an ABE framework, citizens do not need to understand tabulator firmware or cryptography. They need only read a ballot and compare it to a corresponding record. A typical verification session works like this. Citizens schedule a visit to the elections office during designated audit hours. They are paired with a verification partner, often from a different political party. They sit at a two-monitor station, one displaying ballot images, the other displaying CVRs. One person reads what appears on the ballot image. The other confirms that the CVR reflects the same voter intent. Or vice versa. Discrepancies are flagged, logged, and escalated according to predefined procedures. Most discrepancies fall into well-understood categories: unintended overvotes, undervotes, ambiguous marks, or adjudication differences. Rarely do they indicate machine malfunction or malfeasance. But the key point is this: the public gets to see for themselves. This process changes the psychology of elections. Instead of arguing about outcomes months later, verification happens early, openly, and collaboratively. Transparency does not inflame distrust. Secrecy does. A practical implementation guide for counties. For election officials, the most common question is not philosophical, it is operational. Question: how would this actually work? A. An ABE-enabled election follows a clear, manageable workflow. Step 1: Election night and early processing. Ballots are tabulated using the county's existing voting system. Nothing about election day operation changes. Step 2: Ballot imaging and CVR export. Tabulation does not need to be fully complete for counties to begin preparatory ABE verification. As early ballots and election day ballots are tabulated, the voting system already generates ballot images, cast vote records, CVRs, and standard precinct and batch reports, e.g., ESNS precinct summaries. These files can be exported to a standalone, non-networked computer that is fully isolated from the Election Management System, EMS. Using these materials, counties may begin an initial ABE processing run to organize and reconstruct precinct-level data for the portion of ballots already tabulated, for example, the first 70 to 80%. This early processing allows staff to validate file integrity, confirm precinct mappings, and prepare verification workflows without affecting tabulation or results. Once tabulation is fully complete and final reports are generated, the county simply performs a second export. ABE automatically merges the final data with the earlier processing run, producing a complete, precinct-level dataset for public verification. Step 3: Precinct reconstruction. Using ABE's Excel-based tools, ballots and CVRs are reassembled by precinct. This restores the transparency that existed when precincts were physical rather than virtual. Using ABE's Excel-based tools, ballots and CVRs are organized logically by precinct. This restores the transparency that existed when precincts were physical rather than virtual. Step 4: Public verification sessions for now must be part of the canvass process. Counties schedule public verification sessions during a defined audit window. Citizens are paired across party lines and trained briefly on verification procedures. Step 5: Issue resolution. Any discrepancies are logged, reviewed, and resolved using existing election administration rules. Because issues are localized, correction is fast and evidence-based. Step 6: Certification with confidence. By the time certification occurs, officials, candidates, and the public have already seen the evidence. Certification becomes a formality, not a leap of faith. This process is scalable, lawful, and inexpensive. Most importantly, it is understandable. What the RTA experience taught us. Arizona does not lack experience with large, controversial elections. The Regional Transportation Authority, RTA, elections provide a sobering case study. During litigation over the RTA vote, testimony revealed a troubling pattern: limited audits were permitted, but county-level outcomes were treated as off-limits. Oversight was allowed only where it posed no threat to institutional control. That posture, allowing audits in theory while restricting them in practice, undermines public confidence. It sends the message that transparency is conditional. The lesson from the RTA era is not that elections were necessarily stolen. The lesson is that systems were designed to resist verification. ABE directly addresses that flaw. Why Cochise County matters so much. Cochise County has a new team, who have inherited a lot of problems. 2 new supervisors, a new recorder and a new elections director are very capable and concerned about public opinion. Cochise will demonstrate that transparent, publicly verifiable elections are possible, and that any county in America can follow. This is how reform begins, not with accusations, but with evidence. What happens if we don't act? If election verification remains opaque, several outcomes are predictable. Public distrust will continue to deepen, losing candidates will increasingly turn to litigation, election officials will face growing hostility, and burnout national actors will intervene in local elections. None of these outcomes strengthen democracy. The cost of transparency is modest. The cost of secrecy is cumulative and corrosive. A movement needs first movers. For more than 2 decades, we have worked toward a simple goal: elections that are transparent, trackable, and publicly verified. Cochise County has taken a courageous first step. Let's make sure they're not improving elections alone. Voting must be secret. Counting must be public. How ABE identifies and corrects issues early. One of the most important advantages of ABE is time. ABE allows verification to occur before certification, while evidence is still accessible and remedies are still available. This is a critical distinction. Once an election is certified, the legal and political barriers to correction become exponentially higher. Because ABE organizes ballots and CVRs by precinct, discrepancies are localized immediately. Election officials can see not just that something is off, but where and why. Instead of county-wide confusion, issues are isolated to a specific precinct, batch, or process step. This matters enormously. In past Arizona elections, including Pinal County in 2022, problems escalated because officials could not quickly isolate discrepancies. Ballots were misplaced, reconciliation failed, and the lack of transparent verification allowed uncertainty to metastasize into a statewide crisis. Under ABE, those issues would surface early and quietly, long before they become headlines, lawsuits, or partisan talking points. Why transparency threatens the wrong people. Opposition to transparency often presents itself as supporting for a concern of the voters. But history suggests a different dynamic. When election systems are opaque, insiders retain discretion. When systems are transparent, discretion gives way to accountability. Testimony in past Arizona election litigation, including the RTA cases, revealed a recurring theme: officials were willing to allow limited audits, but not audits that examine county-level outcomes. The fox is left guarding the henhouse. The goal of ABE is not to accuse. It is to remove temptation. As Ken Bennett often emphasizes, the best election system is one where no one has the power to cheat and no reason to try. A professional path forward. Cochise County is not being asked to gamble. It is being asked to lead responsibly. ABE offers a path that is lawful, low cost, technically simple, respectful of voter privacy, visible to the public. This approach is not radical in a negative sense, rather, it is returning to foundational principles, as illustrated by Ken in his 1912 example. Conclusion: make the invisible visible. Elections do not fail because people ask questions. They fail when answers are hidden. If this model succeeds, it will not belong to one county, one party, or one moment in time. It will belong to the public. Voting must be secret. Counting must be public. Trust in elections doesn't come from secrecy, it comes from verification. The data shows we can make elections transparent without compromising the secret ballot. Ken Bennett. Respectfully, Ken Bennett, Chairman, Audit Elections USA, former Arizona Secretary of State, 2009 to 2015, bazos@gmail.com. John Brakey, Executive Director, Audit Elections USA, co-developer of the ABE Hybrid Verification System, email johnbrakey@gmail.com. Phone, 520-339-2696. Brochure, https://bit.ly/3svn7n4 User Manual, https://bit.ly/3yzrkpi Video Demo, Co-Developer, Ellen Tyson, Introduction to AB, Ballot Image Review 19 minutes. John's Substack. Our goal is to empower voters with verifiable, precinct-level data that confirms election results are accurate and trustworthy. If anyone on your team is familiar with Microsoft Excel, they'll find ABE's program incredibly user-friendly. Thanks for reading John's Substack. Subscribe for free to receive new posts and support my work.